The dark blue ship moved through space without making any sound. Inside the ship, tall gray beings with long fingers and big black eyes watched the small planet below them. They called themselves the Krillians, and they thought they were the smartest creatures in the galaxy. Commander Zeftar stood in front of a large screen that showed Earth spinning slowly. His skin was pale gray like old metal, and his eyes never blinked. He had been collecting specimens from backward planets for over 20 years. This was just another easy job. The creatures on this world are very simple, Zeftar said to his team. They fight each other over small pieces of land. They destroy their own environment. They are barely above animals in intelligence. The younger researcher named Valan nodded but felt uncomfortable. Something about this mission seemed different, though they could not explain why. We need one young specimen for the research labs, Zeftar continued. The young ones adapt better to our tests. Find one that is alone and take it quickly. Down on Earth, 12-year-old Danny Parker zipped up his sleeping bag inside the small tent in his backyard. His mother Lisa had finally let him camp outside alone for the first time. She was a tough woman who had served in the military before Danny was born. She taught him things that other kids never learned. Always watch everything around you, she would tell him. Notice details. Think 3 steps ahead. Your brain is your best weapon. Danny lay in his tent looking up at the stars through the mesh window. He loved space and dreamed of exploring other worlds someday. He did not know that other worlds were already exploring him. The Krillian ship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a shadow. Their technology was so advanced that no human radar could detect them. They had done this same thing on hundreds of planets before. It was always easy. Zeftar chose Danny's neighborhood because it was quiet and isolated. The houses were far apart and most humans were sleeping. Perfect conditions for a quick extraction. Target acquired, announced the pilot. 1 young human alone in the yard. No other life forms within detection range. Excellent, Zeftar replied. Begin the collection process. A beam of light shot down from the ship and surrounded Danny's tent. The boy woke up immediately as everything around him started to glow, with a strange blue color. Most children would have screamed in terror. Danny did something different. He stayed completely calm and looked around carefully. The light was coming from above. It was lifting him slowly into the air, tent and all. This was not natural. This was technology. Danny's mind started working fast. He remembered every science fiction movie he had ever watched with his mother. He remembered the books about space exploration she had given him. This was first contact, and he was the one experiencing it. As his tent rose toward the massive ship above, Danny began memorizing everything he could see. The ship was smooth and dark blue. It had no visible engines or weapons, but it was huge, maybe 3 football fields long. The beam pulling him up was coming from an opening in the bottom. Inside the ship, the Krillians watched their specimen being brought aboard. They expected him to be crying or trying to escape. Instead, the boy sat quietly in his tent, looking around with bright, curious eyes. Strange, Valan commented. Most young creatures panic when we take them. Fear responses vary by species, Zeftar said dismissively. It is probably in shock. The simple mind cannot process what is happening. Danny's tent was pulled into a large room filled with strange equipment. The walls were covered with panels that glowed softly. The air felt different here, thicker somehow. It even smelled different, like metal and something else he could not identify. 3 tall gray figures approached his tent. Danny had never seen anything like them before, but he forced himself to stay calm. His mother always said that panic was the enemy of survival. The aliens spoke to each other in a language that sounded like water flowing over rocks. Then one of them pointed a small device at Danny. Suddenly, he could understand their words. Remove the creature from its shelter, Zeftar ordered. Place it in containment cell 7. 2 of the aliens reached into the tent with their long arms. Their skin felt cold and smooth, like touching a snake. Danny did not resist as they lifted him out. He was gathering information just like his mother had taught him. The containment cell was a small room with white walls and a bed that was too big for him. There was a small window that showed the stars outside. The door had no handle on the inside. Fascinating, Danny said out loud, testing to see if the translation device was still working. Your ship uses artificial gravity. That means you have mastered gravitational field manipulation. The alien stopped and stared at him. This was not the behavior they expected from a primitive creature. The specimen is attempting communication, Velan reported to Zeftar. Ignore it, the commander replied. Simple creatures often make noise when stressed. Begin the standard medical scans tomorrow. But Danny was not making random noise. He was probing for information. He had already learned that they could understand him, that they had translation technology, and that they underestimated human intelligence. As the aliens left him alone in the cell, Danny smiled for the first time since being taken. His mother had always told him that the biggest mistake an enemy could make was underestimating their opponent. The Krillians thought they had captured a helpless child from a backward planet. They had no idea they had just brought a carefully trained strategic mind aboard their ship. Danny began planning his next move as the alien vessel turned away from Earth and headed deeper into space. Outside his window, the stars looked different, now. But Danny was not afraid. He was thinking 3 steps ahead, just like his mother had taught him. The aliens had made their first mistake by taking him. Soon they would discover it was also their biggest mistake. Danny woke up in the white room as strange lights flickered on above him. He had been on the alien ship for 3 days now, and every day brought new discoveries. The Krillians thought he was just sleeping and eating like a simple animal. They had no idea he was learning everything about their technology. During his first day, Danny had figured out how their door locks worked. The second day, he discovered how to access their computer terminals through the wall panels. Today, he planned to test something much more dangerous. Zeftar entered the containment room with 2 other Krillians. They carried strange devices that looked like metal sticks with glowing ends. Danny recognized them as some kind of scanning equipment. "Good morning," Danny said politely. "I hope you all slept well. Though I am curious about your sleep cycles. Do your people dream like humans do?" The aliens stopped and looked at each other. Most creatures they captured either cowered in fear or attacked mindlessly. This human child asked questions like a researcher. "The specimen continues to display unusual behavior," Velan whispered to Zeftar. "Perhaps we should study its communication patterns more carefully." "Nonsense," Zeftar replied. "It is merely repeating sounds it has heard. Continue with the medical scans." Danny lay still as they waved their devices over his body. The scanners made soft humming sounds and projected different colored lights. He memorized every setting and frequency change. His mother had taught him that information was power, and power could save your life. "Your technology is impressive," Danny said as they worked. "These scanners must be using some form of quantum resonance to map biological structures. Very advanced. My people would be fascinated to learn how you solve the quantum coherence problem." Velan nearly dropped the scanning device. This human child was discussing quantum physics like he understood it. "Commander," Velan said quietly, "I think we should reconsider our assessment of this species." "Impossible," Zeftar snapped. "Our intelligence reports are clear. These creatures have barely discovered space travel. They fight wars with primitive chemical explosives. They are centuries behind us in development." Danny smiled to himself. The aliens were making assumptions based on incomplete data. His mother had warned him about this mistake. She called it intelligence failure, and it had destroyed entire armies throughout human history. "Tell me about your homeworld," Danny said conversationally. "What is your society like? Do you have families, children, art, and music?" The questions seemed innocent, but Danny was probing for weaknesses. Every society had pressure points, and he was looking for theirs. Velan found himself wanting to answer. There was something compelling about this young human's curiosity. "We are a unified collective," Velan said before Zeftar could stop him. "We have no individual families. Children are raised by the state for maximum efficiency." "Interesting," Danny replied. "No family bonds. That explains a lot about your behavior patterns. Zeftar stepped forward angrily. What does that mean? Nothing threatening, Danny said calmly. I just noticed that you work together like a machine, but machines can be predictable. Families teach you to think about protecting others, not just following orders. The alien commander felt unsettled by the child's words but could not explain why. He ordered the team to finish their scans and leave quickly. When they were gone, Danny stood up and walked to the wall panel he had been studying. His small fingers found the hidden access point, and the panel slid open to reveal a complex control interface. The Krillians had designed their ship for their own tall bodies. They never considered that a smaller being might reach places they could not. Danny began accessing their computer systems. The language was difficult, but he was learning fast. He found their database of collected species and began reading. Planet after planet, species after species, all taken for research and never returned home. But something was wrong with their data about humans. It was old, incomplete, and focused only on primitive societies. They had no information about modern human, military technology, space programs, or scientific achievements. It was as if they had studied Earth centuries ago and never updated their files. Danny's fingers flew across the alien interface as he dug deeper into their systems. He found communication logs, star charts, and most importantly, their mission. Parameters. They were not just collecting specimens randomly. They were following orders from something called the High Curator. As he read more, Danny began to understand the bigger picture. The Krillians saw themselves as gardeners of the galaxy, collecting interesting species like humans collected butterflies. They believed they were helping primitive worlds by studying them. Danny found files about their own history and began to understand their weakness. The Krillians had never faced a real enemy. Their technology had made them so powerful that no other species could challenge them. They had forgotten what it meant to fight for survival. That is your mistake, Danny whispered to himself. You think strength comes from technology. My people learned strength from surviving ice ages, plagues, and wars. We learned that the deadliest weapon is not a gun or a bomb. It is a mind that refuses to give up. Danny began planning his next move. He accessed their communication systems and started learning how to send messages. The Krillians monitored all outgoing signals, but Danny had an idea about how to hide a message inside their own data streams. His mother had taught him about military communications and how to hide codes inside normal transmissions. If he could modify their translation protocols, he might be able to send information to Earth without the aliens detecting it. But first, he needed to know more about his captors. Danny accessed their personal files and began studying each crew member individually. Zeftar was arrogant and inflexible. Velan was curious and beginning to doubt the mission. The pilot was nervous and afraid of making mistakes. Every person had strengths and weaknesses. Danny began building psychological profiles of each alien, just like his mother had taught him to do when studying opponents in strategy games. Information is ammunition, he said quietly, repeating one of his mother's favorite sayings. And I am loading my weapon. The aliens thought they were studying him, but Danny was studying them right back. Soon they would learn that humans were not specimens to be collected. They were predators who had learned to look harmless until it was time to strike. Danny closed the wall panel and returned to his bed. When the aliens checked on him later, they would see a quiet child resting peacefully. They would never suspect that their prisoner was already 3 steps ahead of them, planning their downfall from inside their own ship. Danny sat calmly on his bed when Zeftar and Velan entered his cell for the morning interrogation. It had been a week since his capture, and the aliens were becoming frustrated. Their standard research methods were not working on this human child. Today we will discuss your species' history, Zeftar announced, activating a recording device. Tell us about your wars and conflicts. Danny looked up with innocent eyes. Which wars? We have had so many. Would you like to hear about the recent ones, or should I start with the ancient battles? Velan shifted uncomfortably. Most captured species tried to hide their violent past. This human seemed eager to discuss it. Start with something simple, Zeftar said. Tell us about hunting. How do your people catch food? Danny smiled, and something cold flickered in his young eyes. Well, there are many ways, but my favorite stories are about persistence hunting. That is when humans chase an animal for days, and days until it falls down from exhaustion. The aliens looked confused. Their own species had never needed to hunt for survival. You see, Danny continued, humans are not the fastest animals on Earth. We cannot fly like birds or run like horses. But we have something better. We never give up, ever. Danny stood up and began walking around the small cell as he spoke. His voice stayed calm and friendly, but his words carried a darker message. My mother told me stories about the old days. Human hunters would pick one animal from a herd. Then they would follow it everywhere. The animal would run fast at first, trying to escape. But humans would just keep walking, step by step, mile after mile. Velan found the story disturbing, but could not look away. The animal would get tired and rest, Danny went on. But when it looked back, the humans would still be there walking, getting closer. The animal would run again, but it was getting weaker. The humans never got tired, they just kept coming. Zeftar tried to interrupt, but Danny kept talking. After hours or days, the animal would finally collapse. Its heart would give out from fear and exhaustion. The humans would walk up to it slowly, and it would be too tired to fight back. That is how humans became the top predator on Earth. Not because we were strong, but because we never stopped hunting. The room fell silent. The aliens had never heard anything like this before. Their own species solved problems with technology, not persistence. That is just one story, Danny said casually. Would you like to hear about human wars? We have been fighting each other for thousands of years. Each war teaches us new ways to kill and survive. Without waiting for an answer, Danny began describing human conflicts. He told them about ancient battles where humans fought with spears and shields. He explained how humans learned to use fire as a weapon, burning entire cities to the ground. The most interesting thing about human wars, Danny said, is how we remember them. Every battle, every defeat, every victory gets passed down to the next generation. We never forget who hurt us. Velan was beginning to understand why this felt different from other collection missions. This species was not like the peaceful plant eaters they usually studied. Danny walked closer to the aliens. His small size made him look harmless, but his words painted a very different picture. My people have a saying, Danny continued. Revenge is a dish best served cold. That means we are willing to wait years or decades to get back at someone who wronged us. We hunted down war criminals 50 years after their crimes. We never let them feel safe. Zeftar felt a chill run down his spine. These are just stories to frighten us, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Are they? Danny asked. Let me tell you about the most dangerous thing humans ever created. Not weapons or bombs. We created something much worse. We created the concept of total war. Danny sat back down and looked directly at both aliens. His young face was calm, but his eyes held ancient knowledge. Total war means that everyone becomes a target. Not just soldiers, but entire populations. We learn to destroy our enemies completely, leaving nothing behind. We poisoned their land so nothing could grow. We hunted down every member of their families. We erased entire civilizations from history. The recording device in Zeftar's hand was shaking slightly. These were not the words of a primitive creature. But the scariest part, Danny said softly, is how good humans are at pretending to be harmless. We smile and act friendly while we plan your destruction. We make you trust us, and then we strike when you least expect it. Velan could not stay quiet any longer. Commander, I think we have made a serious error. This species is not primitive. They are predators hiding behind a civilized appearance. Nonsense, Zeftar snapped, but his confidence was cracking. These are just stories. Primitive folklore. Danny laughed, and the sound sent chills through both aliens. You think humans are primitive because we still fight wars? That is your mistake. War is not a sign of being backward. War is evolution in action. Every battle makes us stronger, smarter, and more dangerous. Danny stood up again and moved toward the wall panel he had been secretly accessing. Neither alien noticed his subtle movements. You want to know what makes humans truly terrifying? Danny asked. We learn from our enemies. Every species that ever tried to destroy us only made us better. We took their weapons, their tactics, their knowledge, and we improved upon it. As Danny spoke, his fingers found the hidden controls behind his back. He had been sabotaging the ship's systems for days, making tiny changes that would add up to major problems. Right now, Danny said with a smile, while you think you are studying me, I am studying you. I have learned how your ship works, how your society functions, and most importantly, how to defeat you. The lights in the cell flickered for just a moment. Zeftar looked up, annoyed by the technical malfunction. You see, Danny continued, humans have been preparing for this moment for generations. We always knew that someday we would meet other species among the stars, so we prepared. We studied, we planned. Danny's voice grew quieter but more intense. We imagined every possible scenario, peaceful contact, trade negotiations, and war. We are ready for all of them. The aliens began backing toward the door, finally understanding that they were not dealing with a helpless child. They were facing something far more dangerous than they had ever encountered. The question now, Danny said as the lights flickered, again, is what happens next. You have taken a human child from his home. You have declared yourselves my enemies, and humans never forget their enemies. As the door closed behind the retreating aliens, Danny smiled and activated another sabotage protocol. The ship was about to discover what happened when the prey became the predator. The alarm started screaming through the ship at exactly 3 a.m. Red lights flashed in every corridor as systems began failing one by one. Zeftar rushed to the command center, his long legs carrying him quickly through the panicking crew members. Report, he barked at the pilot, whose gray skin had turned even paler with fear. Commander, we are experiencing cascade failures throughout the ship, the pilot stammered. Life support is at 60% and dropping. Navigation is offline. Communications are filled with static. Zeftar felt cold dread creeping up his spine. How is this possible? Run full diagnostics immediately. In his cell, Danny lay on his bed listening to the chaos outside his door. He had been planning this moment for days, introducing tiny errors into their computer systems. Each small change seemed harmless by itself, but together they created a chain reaction that was tearing the ship apart from the inside. His mother had taught him about cascade failures during their strategy games. Sometimes the best way to defeat a powerful enemy is not to attack them directly, she had said. Instead, you make them defeat themselves. Velan burst into the command center carrying a data tablet. Commander, I have been analyzing the system. Failures. They are not random. Someone has been deliberately sabotaging our ship. Impossible, Zeftar snapped. Our crew is loyal. No one would dare commit such treachery. Not our crew, Velan said quietly. The human child. I believe he has been accessing our systems somehow. Zeftar stared at the younger alien. That is ridiculous. He is locked in a containment cell. He has no access to our technology. Commander, with respect, we have underestimated this species from the beginning. I think we need to consider the possibility that we are dealing with something far more dangerous than we realized. Before Zeftar could respond, another alarm began wailing. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated, causing everyone to stumble. Emergency lighting kicked in as the main power grid failed. Sir, we are receiving a transmission, the communications officer called out. It appears to be coming from the human child's cell. Danny's voice filled the command center through the ship's speakers. He sounded calm and friendly, like a teacher explaining a lesson to students. Hello, Commander Zeftar and crew of the Silent Harvest. I hope you are enjoying the technical difficulties you are experiencing. Consider this a small demonstration of human ingenuity. The aliens looked at each other in shock. Their prisoner was somehow broadcasting throughout their ship. You see, Danny continued, while you thought you were studying me, I was studying you. Your technology is impressive, but it has a fatal flaw. You designed it to be operated by beings, like yourselves. You never considered that smaller hands might reach places you cannot. Zeftar grabbed the communications panel. Human child, stop this sabotage immediately. You are endangering everyone aboard this vessel. Danny's laughter echoed through the speakers. Endangering you? Commander, you kidnapped me from my home. You took me from my family. You declared war on humanity the moment you decided we were specimens to be collected. The ship shuddered as another system failed. The artificial atmosphere was becoming thin and difficult to breathe. I want you to understand something very important, Danny said, his young voice carrying an adult's authority. What you are experiencing now is not revenge. This is just a warning, a small taste of what humans are capable of when you threaten us. Velan stepped forward. What do you want? How can we end this? That is the first intelligent question anyone on this ship has asked, Danny replied. I want you to contact your High Curator. I want you to tell them exactly what has happened here, and I want you to deliver a message to every member of your collective. The ship's engines began, making strange grinding noises. Warning lights flashed faster as critical systems approached complete failure. Here is my message, Danny continued. Humanity is not a species to be collected or studied like insects. We are apex predators who have learned to be civilized. But civilization is a choice we make every day. And you have given us reasons to reconsider that choice. Zeftar felt panic rising in his chest. What are you saying? I am saying that your people made a mistake. You thought Earth was an isolated world with primitive creatures. You were wrong. Humans have been preparing for contact with alien species for decades. We have protocols, weapons, and strategies you cannot imagine. Danny paused to let his words sink in before continuing. Right now, my people know exactly where your ship is located. They know your capabilities, your weaknesses, and your route back to your homeworld. The signal I have been broadcasting contains detailed intelligence about your technology and your society. The communications officer frantically checked his instruments. Commander, there is indeed an outgoing signal. It has been transmitting for 3 days. I cannot shut it down. You allowed me to study your ship from the inside, Danny said. Now human military forces are tracking you through space. They are not coming to rescue me. They are coming to capture your vessel and learn everything they can about your people. Zeftar's legs gave out, and he collapsed into his command chair. The full scope of their error was becoming clear. But here is the truly frightening part, Danny continued. I am just one human child. Imagine what a trained adult could accomplish. Imagine what an entire human military could do if they decided your species was a threat. The ship's hull began making creaking sounds as structural supports weakened. The cascade failure was approaching critical levels. I will give you one chance to avoid a war with humanity, Danny said. Contact your High Curator immediately. Tell them to recall all ships operating in human space. Tell them to release any humans they have captured. And tell them to never ever underestimate my species again. Velan looked at Zeftar with desperate eyes. Commander, we must do as he says. We have awakened something that should have been left alone. Through the speakers, Danny's voice took on a final, terrifying calm. You have 10 minutes to begin transmitting my message before I shut down life support completely. After that, you will discover what it feels like to be hunted by creatures who never give up, never forget, and never show mercy to those who threaten their young. The command center fell silent except for the sound of failing systems and the heavy breathing of terrified aliens. They had come to collect a simple specimen from a backward world. Instead, they had declared war on the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, and the hunt was about to begin. The human warships appeared on the silent harvest sensors like ghosts materializing from the darkness of space. 5 sleek vessels surrounded the dying alien ship, their weapons powered but not yet firing. Commander Jake Morrison's voice crackled through the communication system with cold authority. Alien vessel, this is Commander Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. You are carrying stolen human property. Surrender immediately or face the consequences. Zeftar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The human ships had approached without triggering any alarms. Their stealth technology was far more advanced than Krillian intelligence had reported. How did they find us so quickly? The pilot whispered in terror. Velan looked at the communications panel where Danny's signal was still broadcasting. The child has been sending them our exact location for days. He turned our own ship into a beacon. Through the speakers, Danny's voice remained calm and friendly. "Hello, Commander Morrison. I hope you received all the technical data I transmitted. These aliens have some interesting technology that might be useful to study." "Good work, Danny," Morrison replied. "Are you injured?" "No, sir. They have been treating me well considering they kidnapped me. But I think they are beginning to understand their mistake." Zeftar forced himself to speak into the communicator. "Human Commander, we are prepared to negotiate. There has been a misunderstanding." Morrison's laughter was harsh and cold. "A misunderstanding? You abducted a human child from his home. You transported him across space against his will. In human law, that is called kidnapping, and it carries severe penalties." "We were conducting legitimate scientific research," Zeftar protested. "On a 12-year-old boy?" Morrison's voice grew dangerous. "Let me explain something to you, alien. Humans protect their children above all else. When you took that boy, you declared war on every human being in the galaxy." The alien ship shuddered as more systems failed. Danny had given them 10 minutes to contact their leadership, and that time was almost up. "Commander Morrison," Velan spoke up. "I am Velan, junior researcher. I believe my people have made a terrible error. We underestimated your species, completely." "That was your first mistake," Morrison replied. "Your second mistake was thinking you could take one of our children and face no consequences." On the main screen, Zeftar could see the human warships moving into attack formation. Their weapons systems were unlike anything in the Krillian database. These ships had been designed for war, not exploration. "We are transmitting surrender terms to your ship now," Morrison continued. "You will comply with every demand, or we will demonstrate why humans became the dominant species on their world." The surrender terms appeared on Zeftar's screen. They were harsh but not unreasonable. The aliens would return Danny immediately, provide complete technical specifications of their ship, reveal the location of their homeworld, and agree to immediate withdrawal from all human space. "You have 5 minutes to accept these terms," Morrison said. "After that, we board your ship by force." Zeftar looked around the command center at his terrified crew. The ship was falling apart. Their prisoner had turned into their captor, and they were surrounded by human warships. They had no choice. "We accept your terms," Zeftar said quietly. "Excellent." Danny's voice came through the speakers. "Now let me tell you what happens next. You are going to contact your High Curator and every other ship in your fleet. You are going to tell them exactly what happened here." The alien commander felt his remaining pride crumble. "What message do you want us to send?" "The truth," Danny replied. "Tell them that humans are not primitive creatures to be collected. Tell them we are apex predators who chose to be civilized. Tell them that we have been watching the stars and preparing for this day since we first looked up at the night sky." Danny paused, and when he spoke again, his young voice carried the weight of an entire species. "Most importantly, tell them that humanity remembers every slight, every insult, and every act of aggression. We are patient, but we never forget. If they stay away from human space and leave us alone, we will leave them alone. But if they ever threaten human children again, we will hunt them across the galaxy until justice is done." Zeftar began composing the message to High Curator Nexus. Every word felt like admitting defeat, but he had no choice. The human child had outmaneuvered them completely. "There is one more thing," Danny added. "Velan, you seem different from the others. You asked questions and showed curiosity about my people. If you want to learn about humans properly, through peaceful contact instead of kidnapping, that can be arranged." Velan looked up in surprise. "You would allow peaceful contact after what we have done?" "Humans believe in second chances," Danny said, "but only for those who earn them. You will need to prove that your people can be trusted." Commander Morrison's ships began docking procedures with the alien vessel. Human soldiers in advanced armor boarded the Silent Harvest, their weapons ready but not raised. They moved with military precision, securing the ship room by room. Danny finally opened his cell door, which he could have done at any time during his captivity. He walked calmly to the command center, looking like any ordinary 12-year-old boy. But the aliens now saw him for what he truly was, a human predator who had chosen to show mercy. Thank you for the educational experience, Danny said politely to Zeftar. I learned a lot about your people. I hope you learned something about mine. As human soldiers escorted Danny to safety, Velan watched in amazement. The child showed no fear, no anger, no desire for revenge. He simply walked away as if this had all been a normal day. The message went out across the Krillian collective within hours. Every ship captain, every research station, every colony received the same warning: avoid human space at all costs. The species they had dismissed as primitive was actually the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. High Curator Nexus read the reports with growing horror. Their entire understanding of galactic civilization needed to be reconsidered. If humans could turn a simple abduction into a strategic victory, what else were they capable of? On Earth, Danny returned to his backyard tent as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not as victims, but as apex predators who chose to be civilized. The aliens had learned their lesson. In the vast darkness of space, there were predators far more dangerous than anything they had ever imagined. And those predators looked like innocent children camping under the stars. From that day forward, no alien ship dared enter human space without permission. The galaxy had a new apex species, and they preferred to be left alone with their families, their children, and their dreams of exploring the stars on their own terms. The prey had become the predator, and the hunt was over.